Welcome to Exit the Matrix, Stories of Success with your host, Jane Slack-Smith, where we celebrate the incredible journeys of individuals who've transcended their limitations and achieved extraordinary success.
Okay, so I am back here. It is week 12 of my book writing experiment. And I'm in this kind of messy middle bit at the moment because I thought there was going to be three clear parts to this book. You know, this awareness stage where people are kind of like, yeah, I'm okay, but I'm not like feeling totally fulfilled. Maybe I've climbed the corporate ladder and found out the ladder's against the wrong wall. You know, maybe I'm sitting there and I've got all the doodads and everything looks great. And from the outside, everything's wonderful. And I kind of feel guilty because everything doesn't feel wonderful inside. And so is this kind of like, what is it like to live this life of abundance? Have, you know, complete clarity and alignment to your true essence and your heart's desire. And I got to a point where I was almost ready to go into the awakening and find techniques and tools that we can all use. And I was prompted by a question from Kyoko, and then I had a chat with Satyarthi about it. And this is the things that hold us back. So what are the things that actually hold us back? And I was interested to listen to something this morning that really prompted this because, you know, if you've had a belief that's been based on an experience for 50 years, for instance, in my case, and, you know, it comes from childhood, then by actually challenging a belief, what happens to us is that we have to, at some stage, recognize that the last 50 years we've been living a lie or it hasn't served us, and we can stand and defend that belief, or we can be a bit more malleable about it. And my incredible guest here today, who's not too sure what he's in for, is Rosco Paddison. How are you going?
It's so good. So good to be here.
Well, this is the thing, right, Rosco? This is completely like out of the box, but I'm in an AI mastermind group. We were chatting about some of the nice custom GPTs we have. We've been sharing these with each other. And Ken had said to me, oh my God, I have got the best custom GPT and it's changing lives. And I was like, what? And so everyone kind of like sent it to me. And he said it's called the Rosco and it's based on a friend of mine. And I was like, okay, wow, this guy must be so like incredible. Like I don't know if I'd have enough stuff to create a custom GPT on. And I said to him, like, how did this come about? And he said, oh, it was a random kind of question that we had in a group, and he responded to it. And I've created this, you know, custom GPT called the Rosco. Fast forward, people are dropping into this group. I shared it with my friend. She's now left an abusive relationship. I've shared it with my dad, and he now has, you know, a better health plan. I've shared it with my business partner, and we've actually collaborated on a whole new direction. And I'm like, what is this? And who is the Rosco? And so you and I connected in the last couple of weeks, new friends. And I said, give me a little bit about you. And he said, 10 years ago, I was in crypto and now I'm teaching AI, but in the middle somewhere, you're a systems design person who works with the big corporates in the world. And I was like, how did this man become the Rosco, the GPT changing lives? So, Rosco, that's why you're here, because there's a messy middle where people don't know what they don't know and they want to ask a question, sometimes anonymously or whatever. The GPT will get to, but who are you and how did you come from such insights that people are building GPTs based on you?
So much fun to unpack in this. I I remember that conversation vividly with Ken. It
I do
was
actually have screenshots, just so you know.
oh, very good, very
Okay,
good, very good.
go on.
Um, yeah, I enjoyed like I think the very tip of that conversation was a Facebook comment. I don't know if you've got those screenshots, but I
Yeah,
know you got your
let me
hands on the
just pull
GPT.
this up. Yeah. Uh, yep. Here we go. Can you
Yeah,
see
there
it?
you go. That is the one, the one.
I
So
love
yeah,
the
I
power
posted
of
on my
question.
Facebook. I love the power of questions. What's the best question you've ever been asked? And uh, and then Ken asked me underneath that, like, what's the best ones from that I'd been asked, which was great. And then I basically just laid out a whole bunch of amazing different questions or frames that I'd been asked over time.
Mm.
And they were life-changing for me at different stages and parts of my own journey. Um, the first one was like, if you were to notice something useful in what's going on, like what's the useful thing? Like you have a whole bunch of inputs and information like flowing into your consciousness at any one moment in time. There is like squillions of bits of information coming at you. And what's the thing that's useful? Like be utilitarian with your thoughts and point them in the direction of where you could use the thing.
Mm.
Um, the next question there is, of all the forces and things going on out there in the world, which of them breaks your heart the most? This is actually a question from Andrew Harvey, who was on the like the UN Spiritual Leaders Council with like the Dalai Lama and stuff like that. Beautiful human being. He wrote a book. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was basically about like your sacred life's purpose. And his point of view was that essentially that your passion lives in the thing that you would fight against or stand up for. And that
Mm.
was the purpose of this question, to think about like all the things going on out in the world, which of them like kind of lights you up enough that you would do something about it, which was beautiful and brilliant.
Mm.
Um, and then yeah, just like I've spent a lot of time thinking about contexting things in several ways. Like I think we very much like I think the power of perspective, like the deepest tool we have with our brains is the ability to context shift over and over and over again. And now we have this like ultimate context machine. We're all playing with AI, right?
Mm.
And we get to like frame it and orient it in a squillion different ways. And
Mm.
so orientation is like kind of this thing that I use all the time. So in my work now, I'm always thinking like, when I'm not only when I'm designing a task or designing work for efficiencies to remove bottlenecks and things like that, I actually think like, what's the orientation? If I come at it this way, what will it unlock? And if I
Mm.
come at it from that way, what does it unlock? And yeah, there's a lot of brilliance in that. But it was a super cool chat. I think there was other things as well. There was just back and forth a bit, and it was yeah, it was
Simplest
insanely.
solution to, yeah, this is kind of first principle stuff. What's the simplest solution to this complex program problem? Do you looking at solutions, or are you going to first principles and going, what are the assumptions I make? Or a bit of
I a little bit of both. It depends on it really depends on the context. Like if you come up with something that is extremely complex, then you just want to like refine it down. I remember one of the questions behind that for me was that Tim Ferriss stage thing. Like if you have something complex to do, um, you basically like if you have a 3 week project to do, he's like, right, if you had 3 hours to achieve it, how would you do it?
mm,
And it's
mm,
that like just boxing things in a frame of reference that just like force you to think faster. And that's similar to the question that follows, which is like, how can I leverage my unique strengths to achieve asymmetric leverage? Because we're all looking for leverage, but
yeah.
how do we tie that leverage to our personal assets, our personal position and orientation in life so that we can get the biggest ROI on effort, energy, and time? That's
Is
that
there an overlap here between if you were to notice something useful, what would it be? And that context shifting?
for
Is
sure.
that a way to
Definitely.
frame the context?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, these are just like they're not necessarily a linear set of rules. They're like more, a non-linear
Yeah.
sandbox of things that I'm kind of that I'm context shifting between when I'm thinking through things. They're not like a step 1 through 5. They're more like a, uh, you know, step 4 in this context, step 2 in this context. Like it's just
Right. You're jumping around. So because these, I mean, they're almost spiritual, some of these questions, right?
hmm
It's like, what's
hmm
my unique strength? What would I fight for? What would I die for? Like, if you were really going to have to call that kind of stuff out, you have to think about it and you have to know, what is the essence of what you're going to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you think about the set or setting of like a workplace or a business owner in the driver's seat, like if you think about that set and setting, there's lots of things that are happening that we wouldn't die on any hill for. and and raising the bar to what's that important is critical. Like we know that a lot of people out there in the professional environment are too busy with urgent to get to the important stuff.
Mm.
And these questions definitely frame the important stuff as also urgent. Like they frame these in a particular way.
Yeah. And I mean, just so I can get some context here, like, how did you come about this type of thinking? And like, have you been, you know, multi careers? Like, obviously, you've got this real engineering system logic kind of mindset, but you're overlaying this with the big kind of life questions. Like, what was been your journey to do that?
we, we
I'm
we
trying to
have an
put you in a
hour, not
box,
six. We
Rosco.
have
I'm
an
trying to put you
hour.
in a
There's
box.
no box.
I don't want
I'll
the
give you
box.
16 boxes. No.
Do it.
Um, the So, I mean, always an entrepreneur since I was 13.
Yeah.
Had first brick and mortar businesses, internet cafes when I was 17. Had to get like parents to like co-sign documents and stuff like that. So always been in an entrepreneurial sort of seat. Different industries, yes, different businesses, exits, all sorts of things that have happened. Successes, failures, some giant failures, which have been great learnings. Um, I Throughout all of it, I've always had technology run alongside me in my career. So like internet cafes, for example, just the year or two before the iPhone came out, I had internet cafes. And so like I've always had my fingers in tech in some way, shape, or form.
Mm.
And always been right at that front edge, whether
How
it was
that, I mean, you were right there, internet cafes before iPhones. You were building crypto businesses while everyone, 5, 6, 7 years later starts hearing about Bitcoin. You now are like heavily into helping people take a 2 week process and make it 2 hours and finding, bottlenecks using AI and your logic thinking. Like, how do you get so far ahead of the game?
I think I let curiosity run supreme. And I don't know if that's best for everyone's context.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that's fitting for everyone, but like I do know that I personally I just see so much value in trusting my interests. Like trusting where my attention's going.
Right. Which comes back to what would you stand for and what's your unique strengths, right? It's really believing in that and then believing that the interest is taking or intuition is taking you down that path.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but I think intuition is just kind of like a zip file. I
Mm.
see intuition, I see gut instincts, those kind of things as like zip files, and I believe they can be unpacked. So I ardently believe that you can unpack intuition. So if you have an intuitive moment, I think it's our body's way, our soul's way, our brain's way, whatever you want to call it, of giving us that information in a snapshot so that we
Mm.
don't have to go through every other piece of information we've ever had around the topic. And
Yeah.
so I really believe we can unpack those things. Um, yeah,
I find that interesting because you shared one of your GPTs with me that helps you unpack that, right? It helps you unpack
right.
your genius. And
Yeah.
I'm going to try to find it because I was like, what was it called again?
The mastery process extractor.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Tell me something I didn't know. Okay. All right. So, okay, let's just see if this is it. But I thought, yeah, a lot of what I do is actually, I'm not finding it now, but I will quickly. But a lot of what I do is actually intuitive. Like
Mm.
I would listen to the words that people say about what's holding them back or their challenges, etc. And I think, oh, it's intuition that's leading me to, they said they needed a seventh property for safety and security. Like, what is that? Why do they
Mm.
still feel they need that? And so I'll put a pin in it and I'll come back and say, tell me about when you felt unsafe. And then they'll go, wow, like you're so insightful. I'm like, I know. And it turns out that when I went through this mastery unpacking GPT, it was like, there's words that you look for, is there, Jane? And I was like, yes. And emphasis on the words. I'm like, yes. And so it was kind of like making me go, maybe I could actually systemize this and like, teach everyone how you do it. Because I think what's interesting when you say that intuition's a zip file, if you look at neuroscience, obviously they say that the stories or the experiences that have the most emotion are connected to them go up the story box in your mind. And so it's the first place you go to. So if you're
Mm.
consciously telling your subconscious, I'm going to listen to my intuition, which is listening to the story box, which is listening to the way that I operate or the success I may have had in the past, that's one thing. I do also, though, think that with intuition, there is that kind of opening and curiosity that gives you a connection to whatever people, source or Akashic records or whatever people talk about that is there. Because those kind of insights, I don't think that you can say it's in your memory file.
Yeah, yeah, and I think as far as where the zip file is stored, I think that's kind of more as much an esoteric conversation as it is a neuroscience conversation. But I think when you have this lightning strike moment of intuition or a gut instinct or something that's like, move, go this direction, this is the right direction. I think there's a bunch of information, no matter where you got it from, no matter whether it was local or non-local hard drives. You pulled that information down and you synthesized it in that moment in the story box, let's call it,
Mm.
and then made decisions as a result. I think it's yeah, I'm just fascinated by it because I think I love I love personal development. I've had make great many and varied experiences in spiritual development and professional development. And one of the things that I love about all of these things is it's like the theme that runs throughout them for me is like comprehending myself and comprehending reality. That's basically
Mm.
the game we're playing in all three of those sports: professional, spiritual, and personal development. It's like comprehending this reality machine we're playing in, and and I just think like we can do more of that comprehending than we give ourselves credit for.
Mm. And so, with that in mind, and I guess the big question I'm kind of exploring at the moment is why do you think people get in the way of themselves and their own success? Like, you've got these questions here that kind of prompt people to think deeply. Is it just that we're not thinking deeply, or is it just that we're too busy, or is there something else going on, do you think?
I think it's because we're trying to plan greatness, and greatness can't be planned.
Interesting.
I think that I mean, I think we like my model of reality, we run experiments to get insights, and then from insights we build things from insights.
Gotcha.
And I think that planning greatness is something we were taught is, like this is how you go about doing things. And I'm not saying don't have goals. I'm not saying being aimless in what I'm saying, but I am saying, set it like, for example, in my reality, set a goal that's way off in the future that you just like want to compass towards in some way, shape, or form, and then look objectively at everything that kind of shows up in your way in the path and actually listen to the whole thing. And
Mm,
this comes from my time being the CEO of a crypto startup. It was in an industry, in a space, in a time where things change every 5 seconds. Like it's not an ordinary business
yeah.
landscape. It's very volatile in all sorts of ways, and it was a maze at best, and it wasn't just a maze. The land was literally going up and down at the same time as having different left and right corners that a maze might have. And the thing that you had to do, that the lesson that I got from it, even though it was ultimately a failure, the project that we worked on, um, the thing we had to do was adapt and change rapidly. So I had, several years of being in the driver's seat, leading a rather large team of like adapting and changing and adapting and changing and adapting and changing and just having this information surface and, some validation that's not financial for anyone involved in the project that I was involved in, but some validation is we're on the right path. Stripe is now pretty much building the exact same use case we were building with the original project we started out with. So we were on the right path. Um, anyway, that's kind of like irrespective. But the skill set that I learnt there applied in the context of the work I do now works incredibly well. Like it works really well because
Because you
you
don't
look
have
for.
like you're not attached to yesterday's results, like because everything's changing so often.
Yeah, I have a rule, and every day you have to make a first pancake in my reality. And you know what a first pancake looks like? It's
They're never
ugly.
good.
It's trash. Like it's pancake number 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And so in my world, I have to make a first pancake every day. You have to fall in love with mistakes. You have to fall in love with shame. You have
Mm.
to like there's I'm gonna send you that video later. I was telling you about the theater thing I did recently. The performance was about making a shame sandwich for myself and eating it because I had to do some sort of cathartic release over all the years of mistakes and failures, which is fun.
Right.
Um, but the beautiful thing about the willingness to experiment, run trials, this is how startups are built, right? It's
Mm,
novel experiments
mm,
and little novel toys. Most of them end up on the floor and don't scale. But then you get little novel toys that are like, let's do a Harvard yearbook, on a website. That's a novel little application. And that becomes a multi-billion dollar, top
mm,
5 value company in the whole entire world kind of business from playing with these little experiments. So you've got to have that. The start is a seed, and it doesn't always look like a strategic plan.
mm.
Sometimes it looks like a toy. Sometimes it looks like Legos.
Can I just like when you said Lego and when you're talking about this toy, what comes to me, like you're obviously younger than me, but we're of an age where we got Lego and we had to make something. Now you buy a box with the plan or you download the app that tells you what to do. Like, do you think, looking in the context of just in startups or new business ideas, that those kind of innovative, like give it a crack and see what turns out, let's make a plane today rather than let's buy the box and stick the stickers on and make sure we do it right. Do you think that could affect the next lot of new business startup leaders?
Yeah, I think it affects the thinking. Like, I think people think that business is a whole set of linear operations, and it can definitely be viewed as that. And I think that that is what a corporation is. That's what a regulated late stage business is. But I
Mm,
think an early stage business is a completely non-linear beast,
mm,
and it slowly adds linear pathways. In game design, they talk about 2 different types of games that you build. So like kids play games on their devices or whatever. Um, I'm going to speak to games I know, but like if you think about like simple games like old school Mario, you played a level, you got to the end of the level, you jumped over the flag, you went to the next level, you went to level 2, and you'd play through the like sort of scenery. The second type of game that exists though that I played when I was a kid was more like Sim City, which was like Minecraft today, where you just have this environment where you can just go and build and do stuff,
mm,
but for not necessarily any end game. Like
mm.
there's no end game in a, and so
Creativity.
that's a sandbox, whereas the Mario is a path.
True.
So you go from level to level in paths, and sandboxes you just like have no objective. Like I've spoken to my kids playing Minecraft before, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" They're like, "We're just building this big thing." I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "We wanna."
We're going to fill it with lava and throw in the goats. It's okay. So that's a good point because we've got Minecraft and we've got what else do we have? Minecraft and something else came to mind where Roblox.
Roblox, yeah, yeah.
People are just building. Okay, so okay, I'm okay now. Kids do have creative outlets where they're able to do things. Okay, I'm going to come back to something that you said, which I think could be one of these things that keep us back from really living, our genius and our unique strengths and, something that we're going to stand for. And that is shame. So I participated, like you've just participated in an acting scenario where you had to eat a shame sandwich, literally acted out.
Literally.
Can't wait to see that. And I was in this workshop and they said, find a partner and someone you haven't met before. So you're chatting to someone you haven't met before, and they said, now tell them your most shameful secret moment.
Oh.
And I got to tell you, there was like anxiety. And for me, it was, I automatically went blank and I was thinking, I can't even think of something that I'm really ashamed of. And the other lady who I was a partner with, she shared something. I said, oh, why did you pull out that example? And she said, oh, I thought it would be relatable for you. So she still was trying to put some type of filter around this conversation. And it wasn't until people actually stood up and started sharing some incredibly vulnerable, shameful moments that I could actually go, oh gosh, that reminds me of something. So because you're aware of all of these things that, there's beliefs and conditions, and I have to go to school and, then go to uni and then get a good job and then, maybe find someone to marry and then buy a house and then 40 years later retire on 40% of what I earned before. There's this path that they have put out for us. Like there's these conditions and limits. But this concept of shame was a new one for me. So I'm interested for someone who's just gone through this kind of moment of reflection yourself. How did you find that, and what could you say about how that could hold people back from living their best life?
Yeah, so many things. There's a big difference. Like one thing I'll say to begin with is there's a difference between guilt and shame.
Mm.
Guilt is feeling bad for breaking your rules. Shame is feeling bad for breaking someone else's rules.
Mm.
Um,
Wait, so guilt is a personal experience where shame is involving another person.
it's still a personal experience to do with the collective.
Okay.
It's still the personal feeling, and it's really difficult to deal with because like you can't change what you did by the time you did it, and you can't change the collective's perception on it. Like neither of those things are in your control. So it's like, as far as all the different forms of trauma work go, it's right up there with things that are unchangeable. Like it's like it's
It's
in that
around
it's in
the
that zone.
acceptance. You get to an acceptance, I guess.
Yeah,
You recognize
yeah.
it, see it, and then accept it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know the exact methods. I mean, I've tried many different things, and but the main thing is falling in love with making mistakes again, ultimately.
So, just a quick message. I hope you're enjoying this podcast bonus session. Now, if you have heard this interview, then you're probably sitting there going, what is this all about? Well, this is all about my Exit the Matrix experiment. Now, I decided to write a book because I'm really interested in how do we go from the existence that we have now to exiting the matrix and living with intention from our hearts, following our heart's desires, but also creating abundance in all areas of our lives. And hence, whilst I've been researching this book, I thought, this is a really solitary journey. I want people to come on this journey with me. And hence, I've got this very special group. Now, come and join me. The first month for founders is free. And if you decide to stay, fantastic. So what I'm doing is I'm interviewing incredible people. I'm getting insights about what's this awakening that people are getting? What's this the exit the matrix kind of sliding door moment for them? Now, I've obviously run this podcast for over a year now, and I have more than 30 stories, but I'm also interested in those people who are in this transformational space, who are actually not just awakening themselves, and they're awakening others. What is the mechanism? As Bashar talks about it, it's the permission slip. Are they going through astrology or meditation or yoga or breath work? Are they just going within and getting a sense of what's really going on? So that's what all the Exit the Matrix experience is about. I'm going to let you get back to the interview, but if you want to join me, go to exitthematrix.today/ETM with me, which stands for Exit the Matrix with me. So that's exitthematrix.today/ETM with me. Sign up. I'd love for you to come along. I'm creating courses. There's currently courses in there around 4D gratitude. There's more courses to come. I'm creating custom GPTs on how you can exit the matrix and helping you uncover what lies beneath your subconscious and holding you back, and also other custom GPTs that I'm sure you're going to love. And most of the speakers are actually really motivating me. So I'm creating courses, I'm creating ebooks, I'm creating experiments you can try, I'm creating tools that you can use, and I'm also writing a book. So at some stage, I'll get to writing the book. At this moment, it's just all about the research. And I hope you choose to join me because I'm really excited about this experiment. So I'll get back to the interview now. Enjoy yourself. And as always, here's to your success.
And actually being proud of your mistakes. Like, I think the opposite of shame is like pride in the fact that you gave it a go, and in the face of the world and everyone else's rules, you gave it a go and you continue to. I think I always heard it when I, like 20 years ago. I'm in my 40s now, but in my 20s, I always heard it when I was listening to some early entrepreneurial stuff. I always heard this, like, you got to get back up and go again. And I'd had some mistakes in my 20s, and naively I'm like, yeah, I've got that muscle. And then you get a little later in life, you have children, you have you care more about the people around you, and like you build long-term relationships and all those kind of things, and then you make a mistake that's like of you know decent size and nature, and whatever
Affects other people quite considerably.
affects other
Like
people, and
yourself.
then you're like, and it's not outside of any, like, I mean, I haven't done anything that wasn't within the bounds of anything. Like, I haven't done anything actually that shameful. It's just my self-talk,
Mm,
really, at the end of the day. And
mm,
it's about, yeah, I guess there's a process of forgiveness and in trying to find peace in it. But I think the way in which you find peace is by picking up the pieces and going again and making more mistakes and being proud of them and proudly wearing your mistakes. And just like, that's literally why I did that shame sandwich performance. That was actually my
mm.
biggest piece of therapy. Was I'm just like, I'm going to eat a shame sandwich in front of a room of 50 people in a drama performance. It was quite ridiculous.
But the thing is,
Um,
it loses its energy, right? The power's
mm,
gone from that
yeah,
experience or that, like, if you say shame is kind of letting the group down
yeah,
through some type of rules that have been set, then
yeah.
by you actually owning up to it, it then takes the power out of it, so that it's like they can't cast the stone at you or point the finger because they're like, you've done it to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. It reminds me of, I have someone who came to me for advice, a very, very well-known TV personality, and was worried that this experience that they had would come out and would, people could bring down this kind of, reputational brand or whatever. And we explored it, and I'm like, people are going to love you for it. Like,
Mm,
it makes you vulnerable, makes you human, it makes you relatable. And by you pulling it out, you don't have to sit there with this worry that someone is going to find this. And I think it was almost just a relief for them to go, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this. And the way I saw it being presented was it was beautiful, so casually done. It was like, oh, okay, yeah,
mm.
where this had been like something that had kept that person back for years, and in fear that someone would find out.
There's this great event. I don't know if we need to bleep this out, but it's called Fuck Up Nights. It's a global organization that has like little meetup nights.
Yeah.
And they're literally just entrepreneurs telling stories of their screw ups in business. It's actually really beautiful to go to. There's no recordings, nothing online, because it's like people come and tell their stories vulnerable.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
great space. I really enjoy that. Um, The other thing that I did, and I don't really have any conscious awareness of it because I was listening to some facilitated sort of somatic stuff from people like Gabor Mate and things like that around shame. He's got some brilliant,
Right.
beautiful work on it as well.
Yeah, I think that the more that this is sitting with me is that there are illusions that we create that keep us back from, or our ego, or whatever it is, keep us back from what we really want. And maybe we don't even know what we want. And there is this barrier that is actually a construct of our own self and what we think other people are thinking and what we think, will affect, their opinion of us, and maybe we won't belong or whatever it is. And there might be people sitting there in this kind of awareness stage going like, I know life should be better than what it is, but really it's comfortable. And it's almost like the prisoner who doesn't want to escape the prison because it's familiar and comfortable, but freedom
Uh-huh.
is something they're not realistic to. So that kind of, experience. And I think what I love about the Rosco, which obviously we'll be sharing, is that it actually, I think I even have the prompt here. Let me just see if I can pull up the prompt. Here we go. The Rosco prompt. Tell me if you can see this. So basically, this is the prompt that was used. It was like designed to help people navigate complex problems and achieve rapid personal growth through collaborative exploration, targeted questions. So, your role is the facilitator. And I like this, the tones, curiosity, empathy, non-judgment, which is kind of exactly what we talked about, right? It's
Mm.
like look with humor and lightness to the situation that you've put so much charge over. And, and I also like this, ask permission to share insights. That's always nice. And if they agree, share your insights and ask your question in a concise, non-judgmental way and use follow-up questions to help explore their own thoughts and feelings and insights. Speaking generally, unless the user asks for strategies, assume they prefer just insights, yada, yada, yada. Remember, your ultimate goal is to empower users to think critically, explore problems deeply, and develop their own innovative solutions. And what I love about this is that we look at AI and people have all of this different opinion about it. We've been using it for 10 plus years with Siri and, whoever discovered in the 70s or whatever, and a lot of people believe it was around thousands of years ago as well. So, however long it's been here, there is this kind of more uh, user-friendly interface now that people have. And, everyone gets kind of excited about the way that they can use it to fix their emails or,
Mm.
to come up with a pretty picture. And, but what I love about this use of it is that what it does is it is actually almost having the conversation that you haven't given yourself permission to have yourself. And
Yeah.
it's really pulling these things out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like.
I think I have a fundamental belief that a problem doesn't exist without the solution entangled within it.
Oh gosh, wait a second. The problem doesn't exist without the solution tangled. Okay, all right, let's explore that. I like that, which essentially says there's always an answer.
Yeah, like I mean, to me, your problem has the information inside of it to give you the solution. Like if you comprehend your problem enough, and I think it's an Einstein quote or something that's like, if you can write your problem clearly enough, it's 90% solved or something to that. I'm probably butchering the quote, but it's effectively that. And to me, I always it's interesting because I think scarcity is a lie, and I think it is that same it's that same illusion delusion you were talking about before. This inner lie of there's not enough. Like we live in an age of abundance, in a place where we have like the most amazing regenerative technologies right now, whether no matter which industry you look at.
Yeah.
I at the beginning of COVID times went down a huge rabbit hole around syntropic agroforestry and regenerative farming. And like syntropic agroforestry is this crazy sector by this dude called Ernst Gosch. And he bought like 700 acres of desert in Brazil and regenerated it. And within 21 years had full forest there growing cacao, like cacao that should, like a forest that should have taken 300 years to grow if nature did it on its own. Like
Right.
we have incredible, incredible solutions, and the the scarcity is like this. I think we just, we've learnt so much about scarcity through marketers. We've like so much about scarcity through,
Mhm.
news headlines. Like we every time there's some chaos in the world, there's no toilet paper in the world overnight. Like we've learnt so much through all of the mediums we have in front of us. And whether it's, it's a hopeful, wonderful thing that you could win a gazillion-dollar prize home, but you got to be in it to win it, and there's X many prize winners. And we've just been taught and had so much manipulation around FOMO and things like that, that we have been in this environment that tells us that our survival instincts are real when they're not anymore in the age of abundance we live in. They're not the same.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this challenge that I've got running in the group at the moment as to, write down 10 things that you own that, if you lost everything, you still have like this kind of anti-attachment exercise. And the first couple of days, I'm on day 4 of a week's training, but the first couple of days, I'm like, oh, I've got a warm bed. I'm like, oh, if I lost everything, do I still have a warm bed? Maybe not. And and today I noticed that I was like, oh, I have curiosity, and I have self-discipline, and I started getting to the things that you don't really ever name and label or categorize as assets.
Mm,
And if you did lose everything tomorrow, what do you have? And I think the thing is, if you don't do that audit of gratefulness and what you have, and be appreciative, but also, if I did lose it all tomorrow, if I had to fight for something and I could lose everything based on my belief of what I was going to fight for, is that okay? And this kind of gives some comfort to it, because you're like, oh,
mm.
I'm every day I'm like putting in extra assets that I've got that is building up, going, gosh, I'm probably the richest person in the world at the moment.
I love that. I Yeah, look, I mean, if we put the three best salespeople in the world side by side, I don't know who they are, but the three best side by
Mm,
side, and we took everything away from them, we know they'd survive because of their skill set. Like they've got a particular set of skills that are awesome for creating money, so they'd get back on their feet. What's not obvious about that though is if we looked at all three of those, they might have some similar IP assets in their thinking, in their heads, but for the most part, they'd have a very different recipe or a very different formulation of skills in their mind or in themselves. And so why I'm saying this is I think we have genius that can be only articulated in your particular expression of it as a human being. Like you have the way in which you go about doing things, you express this like genius in a way that you'll only ever see it once. Like when I look out the window, I live on land and I see like heaps of trees. There's no two branches the same out there.
mm.
There's no two fingerprints the same in the world. And I think if everyone lost everything tomorrow all of a sudden, then they would have something that's unique about themselves that would actually give them their edge almost immediately. And it's a cocktail of different things that they have going on. And because it's a cocktail, it's hard to see the individual ingredients, but I think they can get there. Like if they, and that challenge sounds really cool. It sounds like you're helping people unpack all those beautiful ingredients they have inside themselves.
It's interesting. I had this course and it helps people understand the money stories that they have.
Mm,
And one of the exercises is essentially you wake up tomorrow, everyone's dead. There's enough water and food, animals, whatever, to keep you going for the next, 50, 60 years. There's a grief period, but you're going to get on with it. Are you going to live in the big mansion by the beach? Are you going to live in the lovely little cottage that you don't have to clean? Are you like, what's important? Do you want the shoes with the red bottom on them? You know, do you need the big handbag? Like, what is important? And it's an interesting exercise because it really makes you face the current list of things that you need to achieve or things you need to do or accumulate or buy to feel good.
Mm.
And I think it's interesting. Like I'm quite happy to wear a, you know, $500 gold chain with a $1 piece of beads from Bali child off the street because I like them. But I think that for a lot of people, there's that kind of, there's the, you know, I have to look the right way. I have to have the right things to fit in, to be accepted. And there is this, there's almost a shadow of fear that you're going to be found out and it's going to be shameful because you've done something outside of what others want. You've got a bigger goal, or you've got a bigger curiosity, or you've got a bigger mission that can't be spoken because the familiar and the comfortable and, you know, the group think or whatever it is holding you in this pack that almost penalizes you to think differently.
Mm.
Is that
Yeah, I
something
think
that you've got some thoughts on?
yeah, I just had like this like kind of sentence that came into my mind, which is there's no quicker way to be broke than to tie your self-worth to what you're doing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it is interesting. Well, I tell you what I've really taken from this conversation, speaking to the original Rosco, which is very like, my family, my husband and my son, I'm like, can I just show you what AI can do? Like I've been in masterminds and classes for 3 years. Like I'm seeing things that are just extraordinary. And I'm a user, not a developer. Obviously, I'm on one end of it. And they're like, nah, not interested. And I was like, oh, Max, I could put your entire economics, you know, curriculum into Notebook LM, and it could create a podcast, and you can walk to school and you can listen to an interesting conversation about economics. It's like, nah. And my husband, who's an artist, is like, nah, I'm not going to use it. And the other day, my husband came to me and he said, oh, look, you know, I've got these 2 art competitions that I need to go into, but I can only do one, and one's like, this is the theme, and the other is the theme, and this is what I really love doing at the moment. I'm like, let's ask the Rosco. Rosco, and he's, I don't use AI. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. Anyhow, we went into the Rosco, and the Rosco came up with something very enlightening. He was like, well, that's good information. Okay, that's pretty good. Anyhow, last week I was asking him how was his day, and he said, oh, pretty good. Been chatting to the Rosco. So the Rosco itself is like helping out people who are non-AI as well. And I think this is the lovely thing about it is that the way that I have used some of the custom GPTs, and for instance, I was listening to this podcast, and the people in the group I've shared this GPT with, a podcast from, I think it was a Diary of a CEO or Knowledge Project. And it was this beautiful 5th grade school teacher that during his school holidays flies around the world and helps CEOs come up with their story, their like origin story.
Amazing.
And he has the most beautiful, beautiful way of putting a story together. And he tells this story about this kid, and you're in tears listening to it. And he's like, so let me give you the formula. It's B, A, B, C. B, jump into the story. A, come back, context. B, get back into the story. C, you know, conclude. And it's interesting. So I've built this GPT, and I'll be like walking my dog, and I'll be thinking of a story, and I'll go, oh, I remember when there was this terrible storm and I was under the table with my mum and sister, and mum's praying, and you know, mum's singing, you know, God will save us, and my sister's crying, and I'm like going, what the hell's going on? And the roof's about to come off. I've been telling this story for like 30 years about the worst storm ever that nearly took out the whole family in like Western Sydney. And I told it recently, and my mum said, you were never there, you're at school. My biggest story was this big lie, right? It's like, let me tell you about the worst story. saying like, isn't this interesting? Our brain makes up stories. So I put this into this little chat and it's come back with the most beautiful story. I'm crying of my own story. It's like it's made it in something.
My own story you weren't present for.
I know. And I was like, I know. I have many of those things. My family calls it the Jane moments, but I've used it 3 times. But now every time I go to tell a story, I think of the process. And I
Mm,
wouldn't have been taken through the process so easily if I just listened to the podcast and learnt the process. But by using the custom GPT, it gave me a way to see how it works. So now I don't use the AI. So AI has actually taught me to be more human.
mm, mm,
So that's what I think the Rosco does.
mm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think that too. I mean, I think there's probably going to be sort of like 3 classes of people as we move forward in AI reality. There's going to
Mm,
be people who don't use it. There's going to be people who use it to outsource their thinking, and there's going to be people who use it to sharpen their thinking. And
mm,
it'll be very clear who's who out of those 3 groups of people, like
mm.
for different reasons. And
Well, I have
yeah,
to say, what I'm going to share with the group is the Rosco, because I
yeah,
love it,
amazing,
and
amazing.
the mastery method.
Yeah, the mastery process extractor is really cool. So
I'm going to
like
talk
just
to that because I mean
yeah,
you're a systems thinker and it blew me away. And I think if people can pull out their genius
yeah.
and almost systemize it, then it gives them a real edge of what they do and how they do it.
Yeah, so it's like the beginning of the work that I do with people. It's pretty incredible. It what it does is it basically, if you have a process that's somewhat unconscious to you, or you do really well, but you can't replicate it, you can't get someone else to do it as well as you, then it's exceptional at pulling out all of the nuance and distinctions around not only your logical but your tacit knowledge. So
Say
it
tacit.
helps. Things like gut instinct, intuition, like it's great at that stuff. When you're like, oh, I don't know, I just do it. If you got something that you have like that, the mastery process extractor is perfect for it. Or if you've just got something that you do and you've forgotten where the mastery comes from, like you've just got something you've been doing for multiple decades, then it's great for like being able to transfer that knowledge. So it's designed to kind of get the high level, not the eye level, but the high level of your knowledge out
Yeah.
and just get it into a little verb noun process so people can go, okay, do this, now do this, now do this, and you'll recreate the kind of results. So it's very good if you want to clone yourself. It's in any part of your business or organization. Yeah, I use it as a tool to get the boat sort of like well set to sail when it comes to starting to unpack people's processes. There's a lot of cool stuff in there.
The thing that I love about it is it's also so very positive. It's like, Jane, you're a genius. And I'm like, oh, thanks. You too. But yeah, it kind of gives you it gives you the opportunity to actually verbalize what you do. And I think that's for me the thing that gave me the edge because I was like, oh, I couldn't actually say what I do. And it allowed me then to make like a web copy of going, oh, well, this is kind of what you get. So yeah, I was really appreciative for it. I still can't find it. I'll see if I can find it some other time. But how would people work with you or reach out to you? You're running some programs at the moment on AI as well. Who are they for?
Yeah, so I mean, that is all about replicating mastery. So basically, what we do in that is we take sort of like deep thinking tasks in a business, and we process engineer the thinking that goes behind it. So what I mean by that is like if you have deep thinking that you do to replicate results, then we unpack that piece by piece so we can kind of like figure out the recipe first and foremost
Mm,
and then replicate the recipe like to sort of build some scale. It's a bunch of messy work to get the clear thinking is actually what it is. And so it's a process of it's kind of like a rite of passage as much as it is a process. um, it's like really getting into all the nuance and depth of how you do things and why and all that kind of stuff. But it is the work that is before automation. Like basically, what we do is we create strings of GPTs that live in what we call a work zone, and those strings of GPTs basically separate a task out into stages and
mm,
do the task in separate components and then reassemble it at the end because writing a good hook is a very different type of copywriter to the person who writes a good lead, to the person who writes a good body, to the person who writes a close. They're all different skill sets. And it's about getting like right expertise on the right task. Anyway, people can just find me all over the web. Rosco
Well,
Paddison.
I'll be sending them the Rosco, and
Yeah, send them the Rosco, send them the Mastery Process Extractor. It's good. But yeah, I'm like, this, Jane, like I'm just a real human. People can DM me if they want to talk to me. I'm like, yeah,
I
do
DM'd him
conversations.
and said, I've been using the Rosco. I like it. Can I meet you? And he's like, okay, sure. So thank you for saying yes. And thank you. Look, the things that I also love about the humor and the resilience as well of picking yourself up and looking at why did things happen for me rather than to me. So, this kind of, they seem trite, some of these words, but the reality is that if you make things very serious and shameful, it can hold you back from what you really want to do and how you want to act. And the unfamiliar will become familiar at some stage. So we were all at the learning to walk stage at one stage, and we didn't stop, which is good. You can give up because we fell over.
Yeah, totally. And I think like as trite as everything can sound, they're just perceptive frames. They're just orientations, and you're just coming from somewhere going to somewhere. And if you orientate yourself a certain way, you might be prepared differently, which gets different outcomes. So it's actually very logical to have different orientations.
And that's one of the questions, right? Around the context.
Yeah.
Is about, what's a different context? How can this be useful for me? Okay, big questions to be asked and answered by ourselves and not run away from them. Thank you so much, Rosco, behind the Rosco. And I'm looking forward to hearing how your insights and sharings have actually changed other people's lives, and I'll be passing them on to you. So I look forward to talking to you in the future, and to everyone else, here's to your success as always. Till next time, see ya.
Thank you for listening to Exit the Matrix, Stories of Success. Make sure you subscribe to future episodes at www.exitthematrix.io. Until next time, here's to your success.